all of us, especially for me, knowing that that was going to be part of our job and part of our waiting process was getting that shopper behavior to come along and understand how to use Universal Digital. Man, we fast tracked all through 2020. The only other thing that I wanted to mention, and I know it's not pandemic related, but it is consumer experience related, is I think as an industry, as marketers, we've been saying for years, we're omni-channel, and we're going to find them where they are. Well, yeah, we are finding them where they are, but we couldn't do anything with them once we found them. And so I think it's really important. And I know that Mike has a passion around this, so I would love any additional color he wants to add. But as a marketer, I get excited about Universal Digital because now I can be truly omni-channel, and not just with my messaging, but also with my call to action. I can actually move that shopper. And then because of the mandatory serialization, depending on who their provider is and what those provider capabilities are, now I've also got attribution to understand which of those channels they were in and which of those channels they like better. So Mike, I'd love for you to piggyback on that if you have some thoughts.
No, absolutely. And I may have mentioned this earlier. I would love for us to blur the line between media and coupons, right? I mean, some stats. The best loyalty programs today have about 30 to 40% participation. The best FSIs can reach about 50% of households, and less than 1% of paper coupons are redeemed. When we go digital, suddenly now we can reach 97% of households. As we blur that line, right? P&G spends a lot on couponing, but guess what? We spend a lot more on media. And when we're able to give brands and marketers a tool now that not only drives awareness, but ultimately can drive trial and conversion and do it smartly across a range of smart audiences, that just invites more and more dollars. It invites better demand creation, which ultimately is going to allow us to do our jobs of growing categories together. So I'm very excited, a lot of passion for that.
Yeah.
I think there's,
go ahead, Seth.
I was just going to say, I think there's also an optimization that comes out of that for marketers, Mike. So I think about connecting the dots between each display impression and a redemption. So being able to embed offer content in an ad unit and then immediately track and optimize and track and optimize. And you think of implications for programmatic, you think of implications that exist for some of these massive investments. I mean, I think of like P&G's programmatic investment as an organization is massive. Now the impact, like what this can affect is just so much larger in terms of the number of dollars. So like I often think about those types of lines.
Oh, it's huge, right? Not only from media optimization, but from creative optimization, messaging, marketing. I mean, to your point, you're going to get real-time feedback on a host of decisions and platforms.
And I don't know what size CPGs we have on here, but I just wanted to mention too, I have, in my past world, I had a lot of work that we did with, smaller startup CPGs or mid-tier CPGs. And yeah, Mike, I mean, P&G, right? You can do whatever you need to throw at it to make it right. But when you have one of these little guys who are trying to drive trial and usage, or even like in the natural and organic world, what the heck is keto flour? And I don't know, how do I use it? Well, now they could do some strategic marketing and really maximize those dollars to help their marketing initiative go further, which I think is really important too.
So getting back to, I think, a pretty big theme that we touched on, but I want to circle back, especially for anybody who joined, after the first 15 or 20 minutes, is the concept that it takes three to tango in this one. It takes, and that is, again, pretty unique. Usually it only takes two to tango, but in this game, in this dance, it takes three: the consumer, the brand, and the retailer. And everybody's got to be game for this change. And there's a lot of skepticism out there in the market. Not that CPGs don't want this. The answer is pretty unanimous. CPGs want this. If it was available tomorrow, they would do it. Consumers, pretty good indication, given some of the commentary around pandemic and contactless and mobile and omni-channel, that consumers are going to want this. The skepticism still remains about retailer adoption and acceptance. And obviously, Brandy, you're spending every waking moment obviously focused on that side of the equation, and we have two other luminaries in the industry who can represent that. Where do some of the objections come from? Obviously, it's perceived, or some combination of perceived and real in terms of the objections. But where do the objections come from?
I would say really the main two objections that we hear, and they kind of flip-flop as far as which one's number one and number two, is from a retailer perspective. Right now, when you say digital to me, that's my loyalty program. So if you're telling me you're doing digital, are you fixing to take money out of my pocket, out of my loyalty program? And so I would say that's probably one of our number one. And then the second one is just the tech lift. It's like, gosh, guys, you guys keep changing the stuff in the industry. And then at the end of the day, you're going to come to me and make me pay for it. And I've got to update this and I've got to do that. And so I would just tell you right now the ways that we handle both of those. The first one being the loyalty program, and Mike has done a spectacular job helping us from an ambassadorship standpoint, share with retailers what P&G's perspective is. But what we always want to share with the retailer is your loyalty programs are working. Your loyalty programs are fine. Nobody's trying to fix that. What we're trying to solve for is that digitization of the paper offers that are broken and that aren't operating or aren't performing as well as they could. And so having great ambassadors, brand ambassadors to say, no, I'm not saying I'm going to go pull money out of your loyalty program. I'm saying I'm going to try to do this other part of my business better. And then as far as the tech lift, we're a team of 7 people. There's no way we were going to be able to go out and get every retailer connected. And so I think our team has done a really good job of identifying what we call accelerators. And they're various companies and various pieces of the business. They're not all the same, but they're companies that already touch the retailer point of sale in some way, typically that have some sort of POS logic in the cloud. And so we have worked with them to say, we need you guys to be the bridge between us and the retailer. And so for them to be able to take that tech lift and then open it up to the retailer, that obviously, solves for that objection. But Mary, I would love for you to jump on with maybe some hesitancies you might have experienced, not necessarily directly from Target, but just that you've heard in the retail space, and your opinion of whether or not you think that we're effectively addressing those.
So anytime you ask a retailer to open up their POS system, that's a huge, huge, huge ask. But the good news is, I think many retailers are in the midst of modernizing their POS system. So it could be like super great timing in order to get those changes made. Hesitancy of making the call out to another vendor and bringing information in, that's a challenge. We don't want to open up our POS systems, and a retailer does not want to open up anything within their organization that's going to put them at risk for a possible, I'll say it, breach or something to that effect. So, the security is definitely number one. And just that time to take the effort and do this. And then my question, or the question I get asked almost every time I mention this to my management, is when is Mike going to put those offers out in the marketplace, right? So
I have that same question.
I'm not going to we're not going to put a lot of effort into our POS system unless we know for a fact that it's coming.
Yes.
And so you can build it and they will come, but you have to have a vehicle to get to that location. So, if P&G is as large, and if they're going to move the needle, then we want to be able to move that needle as well. So a lot is chicken and egg.
One other quick thing that I would just say, and this is a passion for us, and I know it is probably for everybody in this industry, is we need to make sure we're taking care of our retailers, because at the end of the day, they're the last mile of this entire journey. And so one of the things that we've been able to share with them is that we believe through this connection to the Coupon Bureau, this is hopefully going to be the last ask. We're trying to future-proof them so that in the future, if new technology comes available, we would be able to either source it through those pipes that we've already established. Those changes could happen at the provider level. Those changes could happen inside of, the Bureau databases if they needed to. But that we're hoping that this is our last ask for a while. So, and we're working with some other partners like GS1 to say, Mary, do you need Digital Link, this new standard, that's coming from GS1? It doesn't even have anything to do with coupons, but if so, let me make sure my accelerator partners know what that is and be able to help bake some of that stuff in. If you're going to open the hood for me, let me try and make it the best value for you that you can. So
I'm going to add another thing to that. So thank you for mentioning.
Sorry, Jonathan, you've lost all control of the women on this conversation.
Thank you for, yeah, you just spurred a thought of mine. So the other, tough thing is the manufacturer going to make sure that these offers are set up correctly? Because the consumer comes into a retail location and a coupon doesn't work, that it's usually the retailer that gets kind of the brunt of any media attention or whatever. And so we don't want media attention. It's the manufacturer's responsibility to ensure that those offers are set up correctly and to ensure that their side of the security is set up correctly.
So Mike, how would you overcome some of those?
Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, no.
What would you have to say to address what Mary was saying?
Yeah, no, Jonathan, I think you framed the question really well, and this idea of takes three to tango. First of all, we have an amazing technology in front of us, amazing platform, and I have no doubt we can solve for everybody's needs in a way that's going to dramatically improve our businesses and our operations. I'll go back to kind of how P&G looks at coupons, and the first thing I'll say is we don't have all the answers, but we're happy to sit down with anyone, retailers included especially, to figure out what that ideal solution looks like. But again, we typically have two pools of spending when it comes to coupons. We've got our load to ID, what we invest in with our retailer partners to drive their go-to-market strategies and their merchandising. And like I said, I think that is working incredibly well. And we also spend hundreds of millions of dollars on what we're driving in our own direct-to-consumer paper FSI in an attempt to drive brand awareness and trial. That's the bucket where I think the opportunity is, right? And so I think for the retailers, the opportunity is to eliminate some of the ills associated with paper, right? Eliminate the fraud, eliminate the operations, the sorting, the shipping, eliminate the tension between the shopper and the cashier. There's a lot of angst and effort that we can remove and extract. And that's just to get us to, I think, kind of the starting point. I think from there, the innovation is just endless, right? So I'd start by saying, hey, to those retailers that are really worried about load to ID, first and foremost, mandate it. If you want Tide on the front cover, say, okay, Tide, you have to support me with load to ID. We get that. That's why we have load to ID. That's why our teams sit down and invest in those offers. But in terms of driving awareness and driving trial, in terms of trying to shift some of our media spend more towards a coupon spend, that's going to more directly, again, drive category growth, ultimately reaching 97% of households with other innovation beyond digital. To Mary's point, if we code something wrong in paper, oh well, we have to let it run its course. We do it wrong in digital, we can correct it on the fly. Retailers should be expecting this from manufacturers and everyone in between. So I think we can more talk about the needs. I think the more we can make sure the platforms can deliver against them.
Mm-hmm.
Seth, what do you think about this?
I think it enables vendors like RevTrax to be very responsive to our clients. I think Mike talked about timeline of like, what do you do if you need to adjust something? This is instant, this is quick, this is a real-time platform. That's kind of the entire point. So I wanted to also address the earlier question that was asked around, retailer acceptance. And really this is a broader theme of what can, all the people on this phone call do to help this thing go bigger, faster. What RevTrax is doing is we put an agreement in place with the Coupon Bureau where any of our clients can sign a simple addendum and just get started. We'll set up and port over all their offer content. It's that easy. So for any of the brands who are on the call that are like, I would like to do this, that's how you can do this. But I think there's an additional ask, and I'd love to get perspective from the rest of the panelists, but it's talk to your customer teams and ensure that the buyer on the retailer side is aware that you're supporting this initiative, that you want to know when they're going to accept 8112 offers from the Coupon Bureau. What are their plans? What are their timeline? Push them, because if they get that call from you and they get that call from 5 other people who are asking the same thing, all of a sudden there's going to be a lot more discussion on the retailer side. And Mary, I'm curious, like, how does that enthusiasm build? So like, maybe you can help us understand how that plays out on the retailer side. If, a bunch of the people from this phone call were to go and talk to their customer teams and you know, as somebody who's worked at a retailer for a long time, you were to hear those types of things?
You stole the words out of my mouth, actually. I sit on a loyalty marketing team as a part of marketing, big marketing at Target, and I am one person, very active in the industry. And it's hard to prioritize against a program like Circle. And so when I'm kind of fighting for resources against this bigger loyalty program at Target, it's many times I am persistent for sure. So Mike and I have a really good relationship. We chat often. We work on lots of different initiatives. You know, we just really talk quite a bit about the industry, what's happening in the industry. This is a current topic that has been that we've been talking about, you know, fraud mitigation. How can you reduce the amount of counterfeit coupons that are being passed through our retail stores? If Mike and his team go to someone higher, and you know, Mike goes to the marketing team and they have the conversations, and then the marketing team comes to us and says, hey, you know, we've been talking with P&G, and they said that they're interested in this. That's how we get things done. And so sometimes it's, you know, just going up the ladder and getting the right attention. If P&G, I mean, I don't know exactly what your market share is, Mike, but you make up a very large proportion of the coupons accepted at Target. And so they're a very important partner. Those conversations and just really understanding what the roadmap is and understanding what work truly is involved. Brandy's done a great job of, you know, getting all the accelerators to do a lot of work. So what is the actual work needed for a retailer to get that into their POS system and to give everyone within our management, our leadership, the comfortability that this is a safe way to help our consumers save money.
Yep.
Well, there's a Q&A on that last question, Mary, which I think it's hard to pin down an answer to how long does it take? What are the depth of changes required for a Target versus a, you know, a regional grocer, for example. But Brandy, you know, I'm sure that's a pretty common question. You know, the perception that it could take forever is obviously not accurate and would probably be counterproductive for getting retailers to adopt this. How do you answer that in terms of how long, what's the lift, how much time?
I would typically what we do with our retailer partners is we say, you know, we're here as a resource for you. And so obviously you can connect direct. And if you do, here's the APIs, here's the POS implementation. We will walk you through it. We will hold your hand. However, we don't want you to have to do that. We would prefer to take some of that lift off of you. And so through our accelerator partners, they can speed that up. That it's like having a little team of elves come in and, you know, do all the connection stuff for you, which is great. Who doesn't want a team of elves? And the best part about it is they're not going to charge you to do it because every single one of these accelerators has some other motivator. Actually, in our accelerator agreement, we have in there, they can't charge the retailer. They can't charge the CPG to have the retailers turned on. This is supposed to be open market, good for everyone, you know, industry or initiative. And so I would say that it depends on the accelerator. We've got some that literally the retailer could just go, yes, and they go, whoop, and they flip the switch. We've got some where they might have to do a little bit of work just to identify it as an 8112 and know how to route it. We have some that say, we don't want you to do the adjudication, we'll do that. And so then the retailer builds that part out. So it really just depends. I would say that, you know, a reasonable amount of time from the time that we start until we get done is probably, and that would include lab testing and everything, we're probably talking about 4 to 6 weeks. On an average, some would be quicker, some would take longer. And then I noticed the question there, which retailers have already adopted? So right now we did our proof of concept in one single store in Minnesota. Because if it broke, we didn't want it to break big. We wanted to break small. I don't want it to break across all of Target, you know? And so we did our proof of concept in November. All the pipes, everything worked perfectly. And so then we just opened up our first retail chain. It's about 140 stores at Lowe's Markets out of Texas. And so that one is up and live. That was kind of our last, okay, everybody, here's it working. And we've really used Lowe's as a provider environment to work with the CPGs to test product, or, you know, just to let them kind of have a safe space. And so now we are in the process through our accelerators of just turning on retailers. I can tell you that we're having meaningful conversations with probably 6 tier 1 retailers right now. And that's either they're in the conversation of how they're going to do it, which accelerator, or they're already in the process of doing it. So we should have some really fantastic announcements coming out about that. But again, I'm always for the underdog, right? The little guys. We wanted to make sure that those mid-tier and independent retailers weren't cut out, because at the end of the day, it seems like they always get everything last. So we have a couple of accelerators that are focused just on those mid-tier and independent guys. We're hoping to have, 1,500, 2,000 or so of those locations turned on really quickly as well. And I would say for those CPGs that are here that cross over into C-Store, we also have taken this exact same 8112 structure, and that is right now the standard for C-Store. So we've got accelerators that are working in the C-Store market. So for those of you that have, beverage, confection, snacks, when you do one of these offers, then the shopper has the choice. Do I want to use it on my, shopping trip to the grocery store, or am I going to just grab that 12-pack of Coke on my way home, a quick trip? And so having that flexibility, but the manufacturers being able to be rest assured that it's the same secure process, it's still going to go through the clearing process, I think is also super helpful.
So going to some FAQs or Q&A right now, trying to weave a few of these together for the panel. There's a very interesting thread. So the group sort of aligned to that the proposition for the retailer is not competitive with the Load to ID program. It rides along with it and is really about digitizing the print national manufacturer coupons that have existed forever. That of course doesn't on the surface bode well for print coupon suppliers, vendors, users of print manufacturer coupons. Is there what is the future of print? If 8112, and I'm getting into, there's some questions a little bit more technical, where there are different barcode formats, and we don't have the time to get into the whole, couponing 101 of the future. But the idea of this new couponing format of 8112, if all the retailers were enabled with it, it wouldn't seem like there's any obstacle for executing that in print. However, it would definitely seem to go against the selling proposition. So Mike, as a guy in a company that still pumps out a lot of paper coupons, is the future of print dim? Is it, going to be reimagined? Where does this initiative, what does this do to print?
I think it's a great question. I think obviously some of our print volume would decline significantly. But that said, what I'd rather do is we, the manufacturers and the retailers, focus on what's best for the shopper. I have no doubt there are categories out there where the shoppers are going to prefer paper coupons for some reason. And by then all means, that's exactly what we should execute. We do know that a variety of our shoppers, the majority of our shoppers, do want digital coupons. And so I think ultimately it's about what's best for, and that's what we should all be solving for. Those are the people that are going to win.
Yeah, agreed. And if I could really quick, Jonathan and Marriott, from a JICC perspective, I'll let you piggyback on this. But the vision, I think, is now that we know that the 8112 structure itself and process is more sound, we're not just talking about mobile here. The goal is to eventually take the same structure and process and apply it to paper, because paper's not going to go away. Look, guys, we've all been in this industry for 10 plus years. At least from mine, I know Seth, Jonathan's perspectives, we're noobs compared to Mary and Mike. But I would just say that we've all been saying, oh, print's going to go away, or hearing print's, it's not ever going to go away completely. So if not, then how can we at least make sure that it has the same positive process security? You know, I'm the CEO of a technology company. I still use paper every day. I'm a paper girl. I can't get away from it. So if we're going to do that, then how do we take the same new concept process with all the benefits of security and attribution and all of those things and just move them over into a paper world? Mary, I'll let you just add any more color you might want to there from the JICC perspective.
I mean, there's still a guest that prefers paper. I've heard it in several, the ACP consumer panel, they all preferred paper. So I think there's still that need, and there's just not 100% of consumers do not have mobile devices. And so I think you know, Mike, you need to get to those folks that don't have a mobile device and still have a desire to save money on toilet paper. So yeah, we're definitely, the JICC and the ACP is trying to get together a group to, you know, have some discussions on what's the possibility of putting 8112 on a piece of paper to make it secure, take the human readable out of the equation and still have it pass through the Bureau to validate and send down the purchase requirements.
So one of the questions that came up is we're talking about a bunch of different things. We're talking about the format for the coupon, this new version 8112 in print versus digital, and there's going to be a shift, but like anything, there will be, you know, multiple forms will persist. How that settles out, you know, time will tell. But then there's the other, in terms of the uniqueness of the Bureau's initiative with 8112, which is the innovation that's going to enable a lot of these great things that we're talking about. So that would mean that the current format or the current technology, which I think is 8110 for those on the call who are trying to keep track of what all these numbers mean. Right. When do we think 8110 will be phased out? Is it a certain retailer adoption tipping point? What do you think, Brandy?
Well, according to an ACP, I'm pointing over here at the chat because John Morgan was in there. So now all of a sudden that's become ACP. Anyway, John Morgan, ACP, and then JICC, we all got together and issued an executive summary, which is basically an update on the project, I think last October, maybe, Mary. But anyway, if anyone that doesn't have it or hasn't seen it, feel free to reach out to us and I'll be more than happy to get it to you. But basically that said that the industry's perspective is that when the Coupon Bureau reaches 75% retailer connectivity, then that would trigger a 2-year sunset on 8110, because we can't do anything until we have enough meaningful retailer connectivity that we've got a place to shift to. And so I would say, you know, 3 years, 5 years, you know, it's all going to depend on how quickly the retailers can get connected. I mean, if it was up to me, it would be tomorrow, but I mean, as far as the retailers connected, but we're working with our accelerators pace and, you know, and our retailer pace. But it's that 75% connectivity trigger that is what I think what you're looking for, Jonathan, as the answer.
So years,
but years in, you know, I would say that typically coupon years are like dog years. So we're going to go for the shorter end of that. We're going to go, you know, 3 to 5 instead of it being, you know, 10 to 15, which is exciting.
Yeah, I think we sunset the 81, the UPCA, and it took 10 plus years, and I'm still seeing UPCAs on coupons.
We're gonna do better as an industry. Come on, people.
We'll do it in half the time.
At least half.
At least
or
half.
More.
So I think, I mean, as far as like, this is what's important. We have the technology to do the communication, to do the education, and to get the word out, right? So these are the types of conversations needed to get those smaller manufacturers who maybe aren't involved, don't have the right resources. We need to get to them to be able to convert.
So in the few moments we have left, what I'd love to do is have the panelists sort of make their case for the industry, right? To the attendees. We do have, collectively as an industry, we have an agenda, right? The agenda is to advance the industry. And we know that it takes a village to advance the industry. And so is there one thing that that each of you feels that the attendees can take away from this, whether it's information that would be empowering, or for, you know, everybody to do a specific thing that can help create that that groundswell and that catalyst for change? You know, Mary, I'll start with you. What do you think, if there's one thing that all the attendees can leave and go do to advance this cause, what would it be?
Reach out to the Bureau, or, you know, and just reach out to your, if you're a retailer, talk with your manufacturer partners. If you're a manufacturer, talk to your retailer partners, find out where everybody is in this journey, and come up with some type of a timeline.
Mike,
and I think as retailers, you need to get, you know, whoever is involved in the industry, whoever kind of owns that coupon receivable, the AP relationship, whatever, find out who within your organization is involved with the POS system, and get those conversations started. They may have rails already in the works, right? So, you know, they might already have a relationship with a Blackhawk or an Income or a whoever all these other accelerators are. And so find out who owns those relationships and start those conversations.
Mike, what do you think?
I love that answer. I think 8112 is critical for the coupon industry's success. I really do. To ride this paper train further and much longer, it's just not going to happen. And so what I would say is, I think communication. And so my email address is loyson.mt@pg.com, and tell us, what do we need to do to make this a success for everybody, right? If you're a retailer, reach out and tell me what you need. If you're a manufacturer, what can we do? Because I truly believe the platform can solve for everybody's needs. And by doing so, I think we can further accelerate that adoption and truly benefit the shopper and grow categories. So it's communicating. Let us know what you need.
Well, we'll end with Brandy. How about Seth? What do you think? What should CPGs and retailers of the world do?
I think Mike is about to get a lot of emails. That's what I think.
The thing about Mike is he loves it, and he'll answer every one of them with a smile.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I got two things real quick. I think the first is, for our clients, we can be your one-stop shop to make every type of mobile offer easy. So we're here to help. And part of that includes talking to your customer teams, getting acceptance happening. So like, really what everybody should do, if you're a brand and you're on this call, who are your top 5 trading partners? Go to the customer team lead. I want you to accept, I want those retailers to accept Coupon Bureau.
Yeah.
Randy will get on that call. I will get on that call. Other folks will get on that call. We're here to help. We're here to support. We're here to make that easy. We'll provide you collateral with whatever you need. So if someone's on the other end, that someone calls Mary and says, hey, 38 people just reached out to me about when is Target going to accept Coupon Bureau? Well, great. That means it's going to get done quicker. Yeah. So like, that's the ask to everybody.
When I would say, because counterfeit activity is, you know, we talked a little bit, it's 5-ish% of coupons redeemed. They disrupt our stores. So let's disrupt the disruptors. Let's put them out of business.
You go, girl. Preach, Mary Oster.
I'll leave it up to Mary if she wants to share her email address. But moving to Brandy, final words of wisdom.
I would just say, this is your tool. I know that we've got mainly CPGs here. This is your tool. We built this for you. We built this in response to you saying we need better. I used to have CPGs ask us all the time, well, why can't I just do a coupon that lives on your phone that can go anywhere? And we would joke and say, well, that's a pink unicorn. We made you the pink unicorn, go spread the love. And the only way that we can do that right now is by getting these retailers connected. The more retailers that we can get connected, the more broad spectrum your programs can be, because we've got the reach to be able to support them. And so from Coupon Bureau's perspective, our number one job outside of, we already built the tech, it's there, the ecosystem's created, the standards are done. We've got providers connected, we've got the clearinghouses connected. This is this last mile of retailer connection to make this come to life for everybody. And my job now is to help you in that. So call me, email me, shoot up a flare. We will show up. I don't care where it is. I didn't think that our first retailer was going to be Alexandria, Minnesota, but in November, but we did it because we were excited to have them. So reach out. We will do webinars. If you guys want to host something like this with your retailer partners or even your internal team, this is what we're supposed to be doing all day, every day, is education, and support. My email is Brandy, BRANDI, at thecouponbureau.org. Shoot me any questions. If y'all need access to any other resources, that's what we're here. We're here to serve you. So just tell us how we can do that. But absolutely, manufacturers, your voice is what gets retailers to move. Use it. Yeah.
Well, with that, we'll leave with a bang. But I want to thank everybody on the panel for your heartfelt sentiments and your expertise. I want to thank the panelists or the attendees for some great Q&A.
I want to thank RevTrax. Thank you guys for thought leaders.
I want to commit to you as some.
Thank you, Brandy.
You're very welcome.
Truly,
this is our.
Y'all have worked with us hand in hand before we even had a thing to do, and to say, can we help? What about this? And so I appreciate you guys being great ambassadors for us and partners with us.
Well, you're very welcome. We will continue to do so. What I want to do is take some of the Q&A that we didn't get a chance to answer, and if the panelists won't mind, maybe circulate some of it for answers so we can provide a thoughtful educational follow-up to advance this cause and answer some of the more technical questions that may have otherwise put folks to sleep. So we can reserve that for the follow-up. But thank you all for paying attention and listening, and appreciate the time. Be well, stay safe.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.